saw beyond the graveyard side, coming to raise dead, destroying all mankind. A ritual of ills that brightens up the sky, games that we shouldn't play, hating undead life. I hear them calling me, in this dim and I turn on me. My pulse is fluttering, now we are one, 'cause I'm a zombie. World on human flesh I'll be. Cravings now for your guts is what you bleed. Innocent little ones now bound on a new plan. We must invade by you as crime commands. I hear them calling me, in this dim and night time on me. My pulse is fluttering, now we are one, 'cause I'm a zombie. I hear them calling me, in this dim and night time on me. My pulse is fluttering, now we are one, 'cause I'm a zombie. I'm zombie, I'm zombie, I'm zombie. Whoa, whoa. I'm a zombie. What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope everyone's having a better hair day than I am. It's more like a hair month. I don't even know what's going on now. Look at this. You can see like, I can see like my 8th grade haircut in here somewhere. You know what I'm saying? It's weird. I can't do anything with it. I gave myself a haircut back in, I'd say February, probably before all this started. I've been cutting my hair for a very, very long time. You know what I'll do it by myself too. Usually I try not to let it get this long, but what I'll do is I'll just hold it all down, and I'll just take the razor. This is kind of weird, but what I'll do right here, so I can delineate, I'll hold this in my mouth, alright? From there up. But you can see right here, I got some of this. See what's going on right here? And I shaved it all off accidentally, but I thought it was fine. Now it's growing in and it's getting a little like, it's like scaffolding. It's like holding everything up weirdly. Yeah, man, so that's what I got going on over here. I feel like Paul Stanley right now. Like I could just do one of these, like, and just see what happens. But yeah, you know, aside from looking like I got the mange, I'm good. Oh, we got some people here. I hope you guys are doing good. I'm sorry, I'm lost in some of the questions here. Yeah, so if you guys call that first song, that's I'm a Zombie. That was very, very early in the Blitzkid catalog. A song written by TB. I remember before I was in Blitzkid, when it was still just TB's project, you know, all I really contributed was my guitar. Like, it was loaned out for the demo, the songs for the Aesthetically Challenged. And I did a bunch of background vocals. So if you hear somebody going really crazy saying oi, 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 that's me in the songs. But it wasn't long after this that, you know, stuff that became revisited started to get written. I was in the band. I'm a Zombie. That was one of the first ones. It's still one of my favorites. So I love playing that song. It's a good one live. And people know it too, man. It's cool. Like, it's always interesting for me to see people going back to our old stuff and asking for it. You know what I mean? Because when we first started writing those songs, like, we hadn't even played a show. We didn't have fans. We didn't really have friends. So you know what I mean? It was just like we were our group. So anyway, I'm glad you guys are here. Hopefully, like I said, your summer's going good. It's hot as hell where I'm at right now, which is To be expected this time of year, right? Humid, as it were. We're losing people. I just watched the count go like this. That's what happens when you talk about the weather. Like, I don't want to hear Goolsby talk about the weather. So, ask me some questions then. What do you guys want to talk about? I do look like a werewolf, a little bit. Someone asked, how do we choose who sings what songs in Blitzkid? Usually it's whoever writes the song. TB and I were always just writing. We would either work in the format of, we would have a really, really good song, and one of us would call the other and say, hey, come over, let's work on this song. Or in some cases, we'd get like 5 or 6 songs, or wait till we had a group of songs and then get together and hash it out. But songwriting for us was always super chill. I never really had, in Blitzkid, we didn't really have that whole writer's block, thing. And I get it all the time, just writing, just words, as in writing, ideas. I get it quite a bit. I get it sometimes with my own music. But in Blitzkid, man, I think that's what was such a cool dynamic between the two of us, between TB and I, was we knew what the other person's strengths were, you know what I mean? And we complemented that. So generally, I would come with a song and just like maybe hum out something, and he would come up with like riffs or vice versa. But generally, the songs were already written by the time we got to one another. Not always lyrics. We worked on that sometimes. Like, for example, Terror in the Haunted House, that was a song where I had wrote that originally, it was just really fast, like 5 days in the haunted house, can't find my way, well now, it's when it's about to be on the door, please help us grab it on the dust on the floor, say, oh, you know what I mean? But it was just too much, right? So that's when TB just started playing it more like, right? And that's when I was like, okay. That's how that whole swing came into it. And because of that, that's how I added this part. For example, when it goes, like, that wasn't there before. So that's just kind of how that process went, like once the song took a direction, it would sometimes just get completely rewritten when we worked together. But, there were some times, for example, like when I first started writing songs, like one of the first songs I wrote was a song called The Creature Walks Among Us on Terrifying Tales. And I really wasn't singing quite a bit at that point yet. I had just started singing, and I really wasn't very comfortable with it yet. And if you listen to that song, it's not a high register, but the verse melodies, it comes right in, it's like 4 million years. And I wasn't really comfortable at the point in time to do that myself. So, for example, I handed that one off to TB. And as I got a little more comfortable, I started singing it live myself. But that's kind of how the songwriting process went, more or less. We would get together in TB's rehearsal room, and we'd just sit there until we had songs. And that's how a lot of them came about, really. Sitting around just working, So, I'm going to scroll down here. Pascal says, Germany misses you. Yeah, man, I miss you too, dude. Ich vermisse dich. I'm a zombie. Who doesn't know it? I don't know, man. I can't skate. Yeah, so if you guys, go on to Spotify and look up Songs for the Aesthetically Challenged. That was the very, very first Blitzkid recording there was. This was before Revisited, which is really like the first installment, I guess, in what would become Blitzkid as we became. Songs for the Aesthetically Challenged was a little bit before we really had a plan. That was just a lot of TV writing, a lot of stuff in the vein of Screeching Weasel, the Queers, the Nobodies, kind of snotty pop punk like that. Slaughter at the Sock Hop, I've told this story before, that was included in that. So if you listen to songs for the aesthetically challenged, Slaughter at the Sock Hop was one of the very first Blitzkid songs. But there were a lot of early Blitzkid songs, like someone mentioned here. There's a song called I Can't Skate. There's a song called Couch Potato Romance, Peachy Keen, Sandbox. None of them really had any horror elements to them. It was really because of Slaughter at the Sock Hop that we decided to kind of follow that path. Once we started playing those songs more and more and more, we realized that that song was fun. It kind of had a little bit of a different approach than the other ones. That was where our first use of Whoa 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 came in. And it felt really anthemic, and from there on it just started going into other songs. I think the next song was maybe Teenage Necrophilia Love. I believe that was kind of, whoa, I'm not lonely anymore. So we were kind of like filling that out. But then that's when everything that was on Revisited came through. So, Fiends Club, Nobody, a lot of songs. Nobody was a song that really wasn't horror punk either. It kind of was on that overlap from songs for the aesthetically challenged into Revisited. So that's kind of what happened there. Let's see what else. I'm going to answer some more questions here. Blitzkid tour status. As I know, right now, it is still on. However, just speaking plainly and candidly with you, I highly doubt that the tour is going to take place in the time frame that we had originally anticipated. Just because it doesn't look like things are going to get situated on a unified federal level with reopenings. Some states may be open for shows, but if we got to drive through 6 states that aren't to get to that state, then it doesn't make sense for us. So the rescheduled fall tour may end up getting rescheduled once again. We're rolling with it. We're just trying to, assess it as we go, like everyone is. But the constant in this, the part that's not the variable is the fact that there is a tour. There will be a tour. Absolutely 100%. It's going to happen in one way or the other. So just bear with us. Again, if it does come to pass that we do have to do a reschedule, we'll let everyone know. And at that point, if you need to get refunds, you can do so. However, if you, again, want to hold on to your tickets, they will be valid, taken for the rescheduled tour whenever that is as well. But we really don't have any info yet, so just hang tight and we'll let you know. So, got a lot of questions about that today. Let's see, Pascal's answering any projects. Yeah, actually, I'm trying to get the Nosferatu score out right now. I'm pretty much finished. It's a matter of getting back into the studio to do what I need to get done. And then there's the question of the premiere, because originally we were going to premiere it this October. That's not entirely out yet. That's a little different than touring because it's only a one-night event. So there's a good chance that the premiere may still happen. I'm in contact with the theater in Teaneck Cinemas, just to see what the status is on their end. It's just hard for them to say right now. They've been fortunate not to get shut down throughout all this. They're still operational, but they have to make sure that they can do it. So still waiting on that. Aside from that, I've got a lot of stuff, man. I've got an entire new album that I need to record. It's done in terms of pre-production, all that stuff. And that's being an Argyle Goolsby album. And then invariably there will be a Hollow Buddies album after that, based on some of these new songs. So, but that's not it, man. There's all kinds of stuff. It's just that's what I can give you now. So, yeah. Eric Blair's asking, in Blitzkid, do we typically bring a fully written song to the band? Yeah, it's kind of going back to earlier. Sometimes they're fully written. Other times they seem fully written until we get together, and then they just get reorganized, reconstituted into something else. And that's kind of the process. Like sometimes we would write on tour as well. We would just like be in sound check, kind of kicking around ideas. That's how the song "She Won't Stop Bleeding" happened. We just literally wrote that at sound check one night, and that was it. So it just depends. A.G. Lopez says, looking back, what was your most optimistic period of Blitz Kid? Not when you realized success, but maybe when things were coming together well. I mean, that is success, for me. Success, that's subjective, right? It just depends on what your definition of success is. I do think that we succeeded in obviously expanding our fan base, and I'm super thankful and grateful of that. But that in itself isn't success. Like, the success part for me is when people responded to that, when we expanded our fan base and people responded to what we were doing and identified with it, and vice versa. That's when I knew that I wanted to keep doing it personally. I wanted to do it anyway, but it just kind of like threw gasoline on the fire. He's here right now, Pascal. He was one of the first people from overseas to get anything by us, to order like a CD, which I burned. You know what I mean? That's how we were doing it back then. I would sit and burn like hundreds of CDs, man. Print them out, stick them on the CD. Sometimes they wouldn't stick on right, and I'd start all over. Printing out all of our inlays, inserts, going through just mountains of ink cartridges to do that. I was constantly at this place called Bluefield Business Machine. they were doing refillable cartridges. No one else was at the time, so I was in there every week, man, filling those things up. And that's when I knew, it was a lot of work. But, the reward of that was these CDs were going out to places that we'd never even played. And keep in mind, reach on the internet at that point was limited. You had to, it was the Wild West. Now you kind of have an idea where to go to look for music, but back then it was like mp3.com, GarageBand, stuff like that. So that people were even finding out about us was really cool. You know what I mean? And I think that just like inspired us to keep moving forward with it. So, that's probably my most optimistic period of the band, was realizing that other people were optimistic about us. Someone's asking what my favorite Blitz Kid song is. It depends, I hate giving that cliche answer that they're all, like my maligned children. Mine and TB's, which I guess makes us a couple. we're like Morticia and Gomez, right? And they're all our little Wednesdays and Pugsleys. It depends, I go through seasons with things, like a lot of people do. You know what I mean? And when I say season, that doesn't mean like completely eradicating one interest for another. But you just start to kind of like gravitate towards things more often. Like in the fall, for example, my listening habits and my music choices are completely different, I've noticed, than like per se what I listen to now. And it's probably the same for Blitz Kid. They all kind of have a color, really, like a color and I don't know, like an image to me. So it's just all dependent on all sorts of variables. But I would say that probably, I think the song for me that really made me feel like we were doing more than kind of snotty pop punk, which I had mentioned earlier, is what we started with, which again is all fine and good, but we went from I Can't Skate to a song called Couch Potato Romance, which was just making fun of our drummer Chris and his wife. You know what I mean? Like, it was just kind of like, finger in nose, tongue in cheek type of lyrics, which is fine. But when we decided to be horror punk, that was a big decision. And it was big because, it's limiting. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, anyone out there who listens to horror punk knows, you know, it's very limiting. You know, how many songs have you heard about zombies? I just sang you one, you know, and that's fine, right? But we wanted more. You know, we were influenced by a lot of bands like you know, The Clash, Face to Face, bands that lyrically, you know, we're trying to, I guess, get it a little more deeper than you know, just bleh. And I think the song that really made me feel like we had accomplished that was Return to the Living. You know, there was an element in it that was really, I guess, not unique in terms of, okay, it's a song about a dead girl, okay? But we chose a different perspective, you know what I mean? We chose to kind of have a more sympathetic point of view from, you know, the creature in the song who was responsible for this. You know, even Hellraiser, going back to that song Hellraiser, you know, I remember like the first time TB showed that to me, I was like, wow, I feel sorry for the Cenobites. You know, it gives you a different perspective. And that's when I knew we were at least attempting, you know what I'm saying, to humanize inhuman things as much as we could without it, you know, losing that quality. So yeah, you know, like that's what I always loved about, you know, Blitzkid. And at that point, that's when I realized, you know, like this is a really good just place for storytelling. When I started writing songs, you know, I loved writing, you know, prior to Blitzkid. You know, I was into writing. You know, I was in creative writing in school. In college, I was in advanced creative writing. You know, and that was parallel to Blitzkid at that time when I was taking these college classes. And I was really like inspired, you know, through Blitzkid and through music, and that really helped me out in school, man. It helped me out with like my creative writing. And the creative writing in turn helped me out with Blitzkid. I look at some of the songs that I wrote when I first started these courses, My Dying Bride, As the Rope Bridge Sways. It was a big difference, you know, from like These Walls and The Hills Have Eyes, which, you know, are fine. Again, I'm not comparing or contrasting. You know, it's apples to apples either way. But you know, when I was able to write stuff, like if you read the lyrics to Cold Skin, Dead Again, if you read the lyrics to As the Rope Bridge Sways, or you know, any of these songs I'm mentioning, it's more of a story. And that's what really, like, I think made me just anchor into what we were doing, was taking stories and putting them into music, you know, which is, I guess, the point. So anyway, I'm gonna keep on going through here because I'm getting behind. I apologize. Do I prefer playing with bass or singing? I don't know. You know, they both have their own outlets for me. Bass has always been cool, just because, you know, it was like a performance piece. You know, there was a lot of playing, and then there was a lot of, you know, I was riding it around like a broom, or like, you know, swinging it around or jumping on it. Not so much to be like, hey, look at me, but it's, you know, it's like going back to what I just said. You know, when you write these songs, if they mean something to you, they make you feel something. And all the music I've written, and I know that TB has written for Blitzkid, has meant something to us. You know, we're not looking at it like, how do we speak to a demographic? How do we speak to people that like vampires? How do we speak to people that like haunted houses? You know, like, sometimes it's just as simple as that when you look at it at face value, but there's something in there for us. So when it came to playing live, you know, it was just releasing that. You know, it wasn't just like, oh, we're playing a song and we're trying to look cool. It's like, oh yeah, this is a song about this, and it makes me feel this way. And when you're live and you're untethered and you can run around, it's a great feeling. You know, it not only is it like therapeutic, but it helps you explore that feeling that inspired you with that song to begin with. You know, it's like revisiting it every time you play it. So every time I play, you know, people ask, are you bored playing this song? I'm like, no. You know, they go through periods where the initial response and feeling that you got from the song that you wrote starts to wane, but then life enters a new phase, and then they take on new meaning. And then I've had songs that I've gotten kind of bored with become completely my favorite songs for a while because of something else happening. And I guess that goes back to what I was just saying too. So that's kind of the way, you know, that's kind of the way it is. So playing bass for me brings something to me because, you know, there's the feeling of the strings, you know, the vibration, when I feel the bass on my leg and my hand, all those things, you know, on my wrist. There's all these mechanics involved that are just second nature now. But, you know, it's just like anything else. It's just like if someone does Tai Chi, you know, like you could do the movement 100 times, but, you know, there's a therapy in every one of those movements. So that's kind of, you know, that's what I get out of playing bass. And when I started singing, the reason why was, you know, I wanted to explore that, you know, because I would sometimes just give the bass to someone else to play, and that's just what we did in Blitzkid, namely in Nosferatu. And I always liked singing, you know. It wasn't because I just wanted to be like, hey, look at me, I'm the guy, as much as it was, you know, it's interaction, you know, like when you're playing bass or an instrument, you know, you have to, no matter what you're doing, you need to, you should be like keeping the rhythm, you know, keeping the beat. But whenever I could step away from that, you know, I could grab people, you know what I mean? I could scream at people, or I could just like jump around and do more. So, you know, the Roving Midnight's definitely given me that option. I felt weird, you know, in all honesty, when I started, you know, this idea of doing the Roving Midnight, because it was like Talladega Nights, Ricky Bobby, you know, where he's doing the interview and he's just like, race car goes fast. I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, that was me. Like, I didn't know what to do with my hands. Race car goes fast. That was me, you know? So I was like, I need something. I need something. And I had a mic stand, right? I was like, well, I have a mic stand. I'm a singer now for this. And I had stunt bike pegs and an old stunt bike. So one day, I just did the math. I was like, I have a drill. Let's see if this works. I screwed them in. I climbed on. And it worked, and that's kind of where I went from there, and that opened up a whole new door for me in terms of performance. So I like that too. All right, I'm going to keep going down through some questions, guys, and then we're going to bring on my friend Adam from Horror Show Pictures. Let's see. Let's get tours again. Can't say I'm the one who saw you guys on the last European tour and American shows anymore. Exactly. Yeah, definitely hang on your tickets until we know for the tour, until we know what's going on. I mean, if there's a vaccine tomorrow, like, I don't care. I'm getting it, and just I'll be out there. So, what do I think about bands playing shows during the pandemic without a vaccine? I personally wouldn't want to do it, man. You know, it's not because I'm scared of getting coronavirus. I honestly feel like we're all going to get it at some point. It's part of our world now. It's not going anywhere. It's like polio. I mean, you know, that it won't come back as long as people stay on top of vaccinations. But it's still too soon to say. I honestly feel like it's not going to go away. It's part of who we are now. It's just going to have to make its way through society. That being said, like the epidemiology of most viruses, it's going to mutate. It already has. So we're in the very, very early stages. If you think of this as a storm, you know, we've got a little bit of, you know, sprinkling now. You know, it's going to storm for a little bit more. We're going to find that our windows are rolled down in some places that we thought were rolled up in terms of how this thing affects us. And I just think that there should be a little more time. I think that's not just for the safety of, you know, our band or other bands, but for your guys as well. You know, like, you know, I just don't want to drag people out into a situation where, you know, we're responsible for some form of illness anything like that. So I think it's just going to have to come down to vaccination. And even then, I think the vaccine is going to have to take some time. But we'll definitely be there. All right, I'm going to scroll down some more here. Yeah, Eric Blair, he remembers Inkjet Let Flowers Die album covers. I apologize to anyone who has some of those, like, towards the end of, the ink. You would get the massive, like, striations between the ink, and it just looked terrible. But anyway, I'm going to scroll down here a little bit more, see if we have any more questions. Let's see. So Monocaine Blues, I was talking about that. I was telling everyone it was on Spotify. Apparently it's not. I apologize. It's on YouTube. I actually don't have like an official upload of it. The reason why it's not on Spotify is it's because it's part of Split Personalities with Crypt Keeper 5, and we do not have that up yet. So let's see here. Metal McIntyre says that he thinks that what makes Blitzkid unique is the dark romanticism of the lyrics and the music, as opposed to most horror punk, which is about shock and attitude. Yeah, like we didn't really sit down and say like that's what we're trying to do. When I read that definitely feels like what I think we've done, and I say that subjectively, like through our catalog, not just through opinion, but I think that's what we wanted to do, right? Again, it all for us went beyond the Misfits, and I know I'm treading on blasphemous territory when I say this, and I mean no disrespect whatsoever, and I don't downplay the significance of the Misfits in Blitzkid's existence, rise, and or any form of prominence that we've had, but it wasn't where we were solely looking, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? What we were looking at was, everything. We were looking at AFI. We were looking at like bands that a lot of people don't even know, like Corrupted Ideals, Face to Face. I mentioned bands like Zoinks, bands like Weston, like these like really fringe kind of pop punk bands, but like at the same time, like we loved TSOL, and TSOL is a great example of what Metal McIntyre here said about dark romanticism in the lyrics. If you listen to TSOL, like Flowers by the Door, there's attitude in that. I guess there's shock to it as well, but it's all about atmosphere. It's all about lyrics, and you can tell with bands like TSOL that the lyrics come first, and that those lyrics tend to shape the sound of the music. And like with Blitzkid, it's kind of been both ways, but I can definitely say for songs like Love Like Blood, what else? What are some other ones I can think of? Dying Day. These were songs that were lyrics first, and I think it dictated the music. So, like we took a lot of pages from bands like that. And then, The Clash. If you listen to The Clash, if I could recommend one album to people out there who are now discovering The Clash or look to discover them, listen to Combat Rock. Combat Rock, admittedly for me, was my least favorite Clash album for a while. And, I was London Calling, stuff like that, and their first album, as well. And that was where I was listening to that for a while. And this cat, Jeremy Smith, was like, listen, man, they have a huge catalog, dude. He's like, there's so much more than just like, punk rock, London's, Burning and all that stuff. And I was like, all right, I'll check it out. So I listened to Combat Rock, and I was like, I get it, but like, I'm not there yet. But once Blitzkid became a band, and once we became songwriters, I realized, I was like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, The Clash could have wrote London's Burning, White Riot over and over and over and over, and it would have been cool. You know what I mean? That would have been fine. And they probably would have been just as who they are now in terms of people's admiration and adulation of. But for me, I saw something in that. I was like, well, this song Adam Tan, Death is a Star. I mean, listen to Death is a Star. It's the most unpunk rock song ever when you're like in punk rock mindset. But it really opened doors for me. I was like, I get it. I hear in his voice the attitude. I hear in his voice what he's trying to say. I hear it in the lyrics. I hear it in the music. And that's what I think benefited Blitzkid, was we took an idea, we took an attitude, but we tried to expand it like a lot of the bands that we love, TSOL, Clash, The Damned, and in our own way, you know what I'm saying? And that goes back to the Misfits. Again, I'm not trying to like, push them down in the Reddit ranking here of like, Blitzkid influences. But I can honestly say that those CDs were the least listened to CDs by us. The reason why we loved I think the reason why we went horror punk instead of like TSOL, they don't aside from Jack Grisham or Jack Deluge or whatever he's calling himself at the time, he would sometimes do different albums, like what the guy in Ghost is doing now, and he would change his image and he would kind of do different things. Dave Vanian, obviously has the vampire thing, but if you look at the Damned as a whole, they're eclectic in terms of their appearance. So, there are two influences that don't really follow that mold. Nick Cave, not really, he's in Suits. The thing that we loved about horror punk that we wanted to exemplify was the way the movies made us feel. We didn't want to write songs just about movies, but we grew up watching these movies, man. We grew up watching AMC, Up All Night with Gilbert Gottfried and or Rhonda Shear. I grew up collecting VHS cassette tapes, like people collected stamps. I would buy movies that I didn't even know what they were. I was a kid, and it had, the Vampire Bat, and I would rent a VCR and go watch these. So for me, it wasn't like a convenient or a career move to go horror punk. It was, I love punk rock, and I love horror movies. You know what I mean? I love reggae too, guys. I love reggae and I love ska, but I didn't love it as much as the things that became Blitzkid in terms of our contributions, like my own to it. I could rent up there in like two-toned checkerboard suit because I love, first wave ska that much. You know what I mean? And that would have been a thing, but it didn't feel right. You know what I'm saying? So the horror punk thing, the whole makeup, all that felt right to us. It didn't feel like we were trying. It just was like, okay, yeah, we love this. Like these movies mean something to us. And think about it right now. Think about when you were a kid, and think about seeing a movie when you were a kid, or even if you're not into movies, like just think of something that you did that you looked forward to, the thing that you wanted to do when you got home from school, the thing that you thought about doing all the time. It could be a sport, right? And then you carry that into your adulthood, right? But when you become an adult, that shit gets beaten out of you. You know what I mean? That shit gets beaten out of you by all the institutions there to, kind of guide you into adulthood. But not all the shit gets beaten out. It's like, not all the shit gets scraped off the shoe. And if you're lucky, you get to carry some of those things into your adulthood. And you can, like, just tap into it. If you hear a certain song or see a certain thing in a certain movie, if you're lucky. And that's what horror movies was for us. That's what, and are. And that's what music was, punk rock. So that's how our brand of horror punk, not to make it sound exclusive or anything, it's just, it wasn't a ploy, it wasn't a grab to be something. I mean, believe me, guys, we got made fun of all the time. No one took us seriously. Nobody took Blitzkid seriously, ever. We were the turd in the punch bowl wherever we went. You know what I mean? The Misfits, who, your perspective, when you say the Misfits now, my doctor knows who the Misfits are, okay? Like, straight up, man. Like, I saw the Misfits play at Madison Square, and I'm like, holy shit, right? They're back, you know what I mean? Like, they've entered into a consciousness that is world over now. But we're talking about a time where, you know, even people in punk rock were like, oh, the Misfits, yeah, I remember them, right? Like, 95, you know, we started in 97. So 95 was when the Misfits regrouped. And I'm not comparing us to them or anything like that when I say, like, we've been around as long. But what I mean is, they hadn't been around long enough for people to go, oh, okay, right, yeah, this is what bands do now. We really were one of the only people doing that, like, with that much, like, zeroed that in on at least their vibe. And, you know, we caught shit for it, man. Like, once the Misfits took off, that second incarnation. But I think, you know, that we stuck with it. What are we going to do? What else are we going to play? Why would we play anything else? Again, it all goes back to, like, who we were. So we stuck to our guns, man. And that's why, to this day, you know, it's interesting to have the perspective of someone who's been playing in something for over 20 years. And what I mean by that is, you know, you go through phases where it's only you and your friends, and then it becomes a few more people, right? And then it becomes some people from outside of your town and outside of your state, outside of your country, and it turns into something big, and you get pulled into it, and, you know, you pull other people into it, and you're all in this sphere. You know, as the course of things work, Blitzkid, we needed to hiatus. We needed to stop when we stopped, and it was that simple. But the point I'm trying to make is, we kept going. You know, I didn't know if that would happen, and I see that now. You know, with people like showing interest in us and wanting to see us play. When we announced Escape the Grave, it was like all this great reception, and, you know, it made me feel really good. And I know it made TB feel really good, just because it's like, wow, you know, we transcended just activity and kind of became something, you know, different. But in that, what I want to say is, I've also seen from time to time, like, once you reach a certain level of being in a band, and when I say level, I don't mean like, oh, I'm up here and you're down there, but I mean, I'm talking about a level of time, you know, like on a continuum. Once you get to a certain point on the continuum, some people who weren't there from the beginning, and this is like something I'm realizing now, and this isn't widespread. This isn't like a prevalent or predominant perspective, but it's something that I've noticed from time to time, is that for people who weren't there, who are discovering us now, or maybe just a few years ago, it's easy to go, oh, well, Blitzkid must think that they're so special, or what makes that band so special, or, oh yeah, everybody, you know, the elite horror punk bands and all that stuff, and we start getting kind of like lumped into this whole non-existent attitude of elitism, you know, like, oh, well, they think they can do whatever they want because they're Blitzkid, or not just us, but I've seen people say that about other bands, and that's something I really don't understand. You know, and a perspective like that can only be arrived to by a person who has not been along for, you know, a greater part of that continuum, because anyone who's on that continuum knows, like, you know, what were we doing for 10 years? You know, we weren't running around like rubbing it in anyone's face that we were, you know, like Blitzkid or whatever people think that we think of ourselves. You guys kept us alive, and I'm humbled by that. So, you know, it's just, it makes me shake my head when I see people go like, oh, they must think that they're so special, or like, what makes them so special? And it's like, you guys do. Never once have we ever said we were, ever, you know? But anyway, that's my perspective on all that. I'm going to keep scrolling because I apologize, I'm missing questions here. Ba-bum-bum. Let me scroll down here. Let's see here. Jack Grisham said he was straight up copying The Damned and Susie and the Banshees. There you go. But you see, but what happened was they became TSOL because there was enough of them in there. And I think that's what happened to Blitzkid in our own way. Yeah, someone's saying Horror Sky album. We were joking about that last week. It's going to be Argyle, Goolsby and the Reggae Midnight. Something like that. horror Rastafari. It may happen. I mean, if you listen to songs like Terror in the Haunted House, if you've heard the song Cask of Amontillado on Apparitional, I mean, I was really trying to get that in there as much as possible, but we'll see what happens. Some good ska bands. Someone's asking me, in your 31 years of life, you haven't found one ska band. It just depends on what type of ska you're talking about. You have your first wave ska, second wave ska, third wave ska. First wave, you're going to have stuff like, it's going to be more like rock steady reggae. The Jamaicans, the band. You're going to have that sort of thing. You're going to have the Specials. You're going to have, even to a degree, the second wave came along. You had bands like the English Beat, who are amazing. You know what I mean? Like they actually, they were on MTV. They were general public. Remember that song Tenderness? That's a very pop, polished ska song. Culture Club, Karma Chameleon. I mean, that's pretty ska when you break it down. There's a lot of it, man. In terms of third wave ska, I think that's where a lot of people get lost. Like when Moon Ska started their whole roster, you had bands like, obviously, I mean, well, not on Moon Ska, but Mephistopheles. The thing about ska is, it generally tends to be very tongue-in-cheek. I think it's kind of aware of its, just like, I don't know the word, but you know what I'm saying? It just depends, man. Like, I think a diet of one thing completely is bad for you, but there are so many good ska bands out there. I just say start looking. But I would start with, the Specials, the English Beat. Band Manners are pretty good. Bad Manners, yeah. See, Fire Squirrel, just discovering your music. Pretty special. Thank you. I did like your mean drawing. I mean, you're the random asshole. I can't be mad at you. You telegraphed it. Yeah, and listen to Let's Go to the Cemetery. I was like, dude, let's put a ska part in here. Like, again, it's wherever it works. Would Blitzkid work as a ska band? No, and we knew that. Those were not our strengths. I love ska, but like I knew I didn't love it enough to convince anyone, that's what I should be playing. Some things you should just listen to. Like I love Eric Satie. I love Maurice Ravel. But does that mean I can play it? Not really. Would I like to? Sure. But would it necessarily translate well into what I do? Probably not. And that's just kind of where I fall with ska. I'm a listener. Same with reggae. But, sometimes it works. Like in Let's Go to the Cemetery. I was like, dynamics, man. Dynamics are so important in songs. Especially when you're playing in punk rock. Because, if you're relegating yourself to 3 chords and you're going to do that pass of that group of chords 4 times in a song in under 2 minutes, you're already like kind of running that river dry. So if you could stop, change the beat, change the rhythm, do anything like that, add your stops, it makes a difference, man. Even something as simple as Starlight Decay is just adding that stop in there. Little things like that, man, they really do add up. So, I ended up actually doing some artwork for some ska bands too. I did some for Das Clown, for Mustard Plug. It was crazy. Let's see here. Skank and Pickle. All right, so check it out. If you guys are cool with it, actually, before he comes on, I want to jump into last week's movie because I do want to talk about it. I feel really close to this thing right now. I also feel like this part of my head is just so much wider than the rest of my face right now. Did you guys see Strangler of the Swamp? That was last week's movie, starring Charles Middleton as the Strangler of the Swamp. Real quick, little backstory on him. He looked familiar to me. I love Flash Gordon, and I'm not talking about Flash. He's a miracle, which I do love. I do love the Flash Gordon of you know, the more recent era. But the Flash Gordon original series, the original serial with Buster Crabbe. Buster Crabbe. Why are people named Buster Crabbe? Like, some guy's name was Buster Crabbe. Like, what happened, man? Like, where are those names? But they should have just called him Buster Crabbe. That's so much better than Flash Gordon. But Ming the Merciless, that's the guy, Charles Middleton. He played Ming the Merciless, was the Strangler. But anyway, so that movie was based on a German movie called Fahrmann Maria, which means like Boatman Maria. And it was, I forgot the guy's name. I should know, but he directed both of them. So what happened was, when he went to PRC Pictures, they wanted to film, and he ended up just reshooting it with Charles Middleton. And it's a really, really atmospheric film. So if no one's watched it, I don't want to give away if you guys missed it. So check it out. We'll talk about it next time, but definitely watch it. I actually wrote a song called Strangler of the Swamp. Well, I didn't write the music, but I wrote the lyrics, and then that fell apart, thankfully. So I'll end up using it for something else at some point. So anyway, we're going to shift gears here, and I want to talk about videos, music videos. So if you guys are with me, if you followed anything last week, I was letting you guys know that we were putting out a making of documentary of In Vote of Light, which is the first music video I did for the Dark in Your Doorstep album. And I did that with Adam Judd from Horror Show Pictures. We had that up on Friday. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, when you get off of this thing that we're doing, if you go into my link tree in my bio, you'll see, I think there's one for YouTube. If not, just go to YouTube, look for ACWNN, A Corpse with No Name, and you'll see it. Check it out. So I don't know what's going on right now. My nose is really itching. I apologize. They're like cutting trees down outside, so I think I'm getting mildly allergic. Oh yeah, I forgot. I had it on my movie. What was my movie list? And yep, I guess it was on my movie list in 2003. Yeah, that sounds about right, man. That's a good one. I love it. I've been with that one for a while. So listen, I'm going to bring Adam on now. So really, if you guys have any questions, about, the making of In Vote of Light, Mr. Babadook, anything, The Uninvited, just let me know. Because there's really no structure. I mean, we're just here to talk, and there are plenty of stories, believe me. So, and we're also running down to the last 10 minutes, so we're going to get Adam on, and then we'll have to start again. But all right, let's see here. Bear with me. Bring him in here. I don't know if you guys can see me right now. I can't see you, but I'm going to keep pretending to look cool. Okay. For a guy that sings about monsters and butchering bodies, you don't swear a lot. Yeah, what's the point, man? I can make my point without that. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's up, man?
Did you get a haircut?
No, I have a bad hair day too, so I decided to just comb it back.
Oh, well, maybe it's just longer, and it just looks. Maybe you just look styled. You look very styled right now. I like it.
Dude, I hope so, because I'm feeling fancy today. I'm gonna sit quick and drink some wine.
I was gonna wear my V-neck today. That's as fancy as I get, but.
Oh, dude, that's as fancy as it should get,
I sweated myself out of it, and I was like, no, I got to put on the mummy shirt. So
yeah, dude, it's hot out today, but it's a nice day, so I decided to come hang out outside.
Yeah, it looks beautiful over there, man. So for everyone who doesn't know, Adam is out in Salt Lake City. Well, you're in an area of Salt Lake City, a satellite.
Yeah,
city.
not far. Yeah, city. I won't even say the name. Just kidding. It's called Roy. It sounds hillbilly. That's why I don't say it.
There it is, man. Yeah, dude, it's so virtually beautiful in Salt Lake City in terms of the ecosystem out there, man. That's one thing I've noticed. It's always so nice. It's always a degree of beautiful somewhere.
Somewhere. I mean, it's so diverse, That's why, when we shoot our videos here, people think it's like East Coast, like some people in the comments I've noticed have asked if we shot in New England.
Right.
And no, I mean, we have, but not these videos.
Yeah, no, and that all comes down to all of the time that we put into those videos in terms of pre-pro. Like it comes down to costumes. I mean, for a lot of people, like for those that don't know, I mean, it wasn't like we just got together and we're like, hey, let's do a video. I mean, we months and months of planning, and not just in terms of storyboarding, but costumes. Like that.
Yeah.
We spent weeks just talking about costumes, and that's ultimately, I think, why so many people go, oh, was that in New England? Because we didn't just go out to Party City and get, like a pilgrim costume,
Yeah, no, it was, for Babadook and In Votive Light, we ended up, renting costumes. And then for The Uninvited, we had all the costumes custom made.
That's right.
It was like, that extra step of detail that, is really important to a production. And, it adds a lot to it. And, for the locations, like, that was, the church location, for instance, in Votive Light, I have just moved to that particular area.
Yeah.
And was driving around and found this place, right? Just like, this doesn't belong here. Like, what's going on? So I was like intrigued by it. And, eventually it got to the point after I had shot the 1428 music video with Shadow Windhawk, where we were just outside. Like, I hadn't known the owner of the church at that point. And anyway, so a landscaping crew let us in for that. And then a few months later, I met the guy that owned the place and found out that it's an art museum that he converted.
So cool.
Yeah, like the guy is incredible. He, his father is the guy that sculpted the Chrysler logo.
Yeah, I remember him telling us that. He's like, he had a sculpture of it, the original sculpture that was the hood ornament. He had the prototype there. He's like, oh, my father sculpted that. He was the guy who invented the Chrysler logo.
Yeah, which is crazy, that lineage is now in this little tiny church that I want to shoot in because it's creepy,
Well, another thing, too, that I thought really interesting about the guy, his name's Grant, right? Grant?
Yeah, that's
the
right.
guy. So the great thing about Grant, actually, hang on. Let me jump off of here, and we're going to come right back because Instagram's kicking us off in a minute. Let's just come back now.
Good.
All right, I'll see you in a second.